In 7-6, we're going to look at percents, fractions, and decimals. So, what is a percent? A percent is just a number out of 100. Percents are always out of 100. So, if they ask you to write a percent, write 4% as a fraction. So, percent, anything that has cent in it means 100. There are 100 cents in a dollar, a century has 100 years, a centipede has 100 legs, and so on and so forth. So percent always means out of 100. So 4% means 4 out of 100. Now, anytime you have a fraction, you should always go for simplest form, and 4 goes into both of these, so we're going to divide both by 4. That's a 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 4 goes into 100 25 times. So the simplified fraction is 1 over 25. Now what happens if you have to write the percent as a decimal? Well, percent as a decimal is pretty nice, because all you need to do to go from percent to decimal, we know that they tell you here to write it as a fraction with the denominator of 100. 87% means 87 over 100, 9%, 9 over 100. Neither of those can reduce. But to take a percent and turn it into a decimal, you just take your decimal point, which if I'm looking at 87, here's my decimal point. You always want to go 2 spaces left. It's 2 spaces because 100 has 2 zeros. So 1, 2, so that would be 0.87. And that's the same as 87 hundredths, just a quicker way to get there. So 9%, if here's 9, 1, 2 spaces to the left, I fill in with a 0. So it's 0.09. Okay, so for the quick checks here, for number 1, you're going to write these as fractions. So just make sure that you simplify those. Okay, and B is actually the same one we did in the example, so that one's done for you. But in number 2, you're writing these as a decimal, so just go 2 places left. Okay, and fill in with zeros if you need. So model those after the examples, try the quick checks, and then move on to the next part when you're ready. Okay, now we're going to go 2 other ways to convert these forms. What if you have to take a decimal and write it as a percent? Well, to go from a percent to a decimal, we went 2 spaces to the left. So to go from a decimal to a percent the other way, you're just going to go 2 spaces to the right. So 0.16 is 16 out of 100, which is 16%. So they tell you to use the fraction of 100, but if it's 0.16, you just go 1, 2 spaces, and it becomes 16. What happens if you have a fraction? Well, you take your fraction, 7 over 20, and percent always means out of 100. Now, can I shortcut my math? I sure can. 20 goes into 100 nicely. It's just times 5. So, find the percent, blah, 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 equals 7/20. So, times 5, so do the same on the top. 7 times 5 is 35. So that means that 7 over 20. Now, your percent is just the top number, okay? So whatever number lands on top of the 100, that's your answer. So 35%. You never say 35 over 100%. That's too much. So you just want to say the top number. Okay? So now, pause the video if you need to before moving on to the quick checks. For quick check 3, write each decimal as a percent. Decimal to percent, you're just going to move that decimal point 2 places to the right. Fill in zeros if need be. And then in number 4, 1 out of every 20 neurosurgeons in the U.S. is a woman. Well, that's good. Should be more. So write the fraction 1 over 20 as a percent. So you're going to model that after the last example and figure out if you can use the shortcut math to get what percent that is. Remember, your answer is just your top number. So try those quick checks and we'll check your work in class.